I mean, when the transphobia just comes out, the audacity and just the arrogance for cis women to believe that they own periods, that they own womanhood. You don't. Okay, you don't own periods. You don't own womanhood. You experience both, and both are different for every person. But as a cis woman, it doesn't belong to you, so you can't gatekeep it.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So it all kicked off on TikTok the other day when a trans woman went on some rant saying something about how women don't own periods and don't own womanhood, and women don't have the right to be the gatekeepers of periods. So this got the attention of comedian Jess, who responded, and you know, in the way that comedians do, she didn't hold back. And people are now calling for Jess to be cancelled. But my question is, what did she say that was wrong? You might not have liked the way she said it, but she has a right to respond as a woman who has periods, who has had children. She has a right to respond to this person who's claiming that she cannot own womanhood or she cannot own periods. Somebody who's never had a period before is dictating to women how they're supposed to respond to trans women, to biological males, when they talk about periods and things of that nature. This trans person has decided they're going to tell us, as women, as females, what we do and do not own in relation to womanhood, in relation to our bodily functions that we have no choice about. So yeah, I understand why Jess responded. And yeah, let's take a look.
Who the f stands up for us? And us, I mean women, real women, biological women, women who were born with all the parts that you guys wish that you were. When does the delusion stop? What is the difference between you and someone who has been diagnosed to be mentally insane? What's the only difference is you don't have a straitjacket on. Stop talking out your fucking ass. Wake up. How are you projecting your anger on real women? Because we are the gatekeepers. We are the gatekeepers for periods. We the only one that bleed, honey. We the only ones that can give birth. We make y'all people. We make y'all. Y'all come from us. You can't be us. You will never. You're chasing something you'll never, ever get. You'll never be that.
So you heard that. And obviously she didn't hold back. It wasn't the most polite exchange, but she said what was on her mind, and she has a right to do that. Now, of course, people are going to say, you know, the comment about straitjackets and, you know, that kind of thing is out of line.
I don't think that Jess looks like a man. I do think that she has masculine energy. My point here with Jess, which was she made a blanket statement and stated that all like trans women and trans people need to be in a straitjacket or like we're crazy. Why would you say anything like that when you know that you have that they're trans people that support you and love you and f with you? Because I definitely was one of them.
Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder, and we've got to the point now where we are treating it by changing people's bodies rather than helping them deal with, you know, adjusting to being comfortable in their own bodies. I don't think that's the way to go, but for some reason we've decided that is how we're going to treat gender dysphoria, to the point where they're claiming that this is going to prevent people taking their lives, with no evidence whatsoever that that's the case. In fact, the case is the only long-term study has shown that after they've had all of the surgeries, the gender reassignment surgery, the unaliving rate is higher. The unaliving rate is higher post-surgery. There's no evidence whatsoever that changing somebody's body permanently is going to stop them from taking their lives. No evidence. But they use a lot of hyperbole when it comes to, you know, this debate.
After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female. When my specialist first told my parents that they could have a dead daughter or a live transgender son, I wasn't suicidal. I was a happy child who struggled because she was different. However, at 16, after my surgery, I did become suicidal. I'm doing better now. But my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My doctors had almost created the very nightmare they said they were trying to avoid. So what message do I want to bring to American teenagers and their families? I didn't need to be lied to. I needed compassion. I needed to be loved. I needed to be given therapy to help me work through my issues, not affirm to my delusion that by transforming into a boy, it would solve all my problems.
This is the sort of thing they're telling parents. This is the guilt trip they're placing on parents. And this is one of the reasons why parents are going along with this. Now, when you're an adult, when you're over 18, you know, that's up to the person what they do with their body. But for a child who cannot consent, they should not be changing their bodies permanently for something that they cannot consent to because they're not old enough to consent to it. They're not old enough to consent to having relations with an adult. They're not old enough to consent to that. Why would they be old enough or mature enough to consent to changing their body permanently? To consent to infertility? To consent to their body not functioning the way it was designed to function for the rest of their lives? We're talking about the, you know, so-called trans genocide. I think this is actually playing a part in that, where we chemically and physically castrate people even before they're old enough to consent, where we get people, encourage people to change their bodies permanently, to be infertile. All of this that they cannot undo. When we encourage that rather than deal with the mental disorder, you are playing a part in the trans genocide, if you want to talk about trans genocide. It has all kicked off. There are calls to cancel Jess Hilarious, whatever that means. If you don't agree with her, you can just, you know, don't go to her shows, don't watch anything that she is a part of. You just don't have to support her. But to call for her to be cancelled is like saying you want things to be taken from her. You want her to be stripped of everything. Why? Because she is a woman responding to a biological male telling us that we don't own periods, even though we have periods every month, whether we like it or not. We don't own womanhood, even though we're women, something that they are not. So I'm sorry, I don't understand. This is women calling for her to be cancelled. This is women calling for her to be, you know, stripped of her livelihood, for her life to be ruined, essentially, because she gave an opinion as somebody who was being addressed, you know, in that rant that person went on.
Subtly said, there are so many real women that get mistaken for being transgender women, and that's where a lot of anger comes from. I do hope they take a good look at how transphobia affects all women. I said that based off of the context of me watching Jess and me seeing that Jess has already experienced transphobia herself. Because she has experienced this, it does build up some type of people start feeling some type of way. Your anger is displaced.
So we had people pointing out, you know, making fun of her appearance, making fun of Jess Hilarious' appearance, saying that Jess apparently looks like a trans person herself. But really, when women are mistaken for the other gender, it's usually they're mistaken for being a man. They're not mistaken for being a trans woman. But apparently they think it's okay to use their identity as an insult. That's what I find interesting, including the trans activists, the women who are supporting, you know, the trans community. For some reason, they find it appropriate to use the identity of trans people to insult women. We had DJ Academics basically saying he had no idea Jess Hilarious was a woman. He assumed, you know, Jess was a trans woman the whole time. But yes, Jess is a woman. Jess has had children. And, you know, Jess doesn't have to prove her womanhood to anybody. Her giving her opinion the way she did has given people, you know, they believe they now have a license to make jabs at her appearance. But they've been doing it for the longest time. I remember the first time I'd even heard of her was because somebody, you know, made a meme about her and her with her weave on and without her weave on, something to that effect. I remember that. We have Corey Holcomb, who's also a comedian. He actually supported Jess and said that she is right, essentially. And he agrees with what she said. And he also pointed out, as did Tasha K, that the people who gave trans women a platform in the first place were women. It's women who support trans women the most. in particular, black women. If it wasn't for women, some of these trans personalities would not have been elevated to the extent that they have been elevated. It's not straight men supporting these trans women. Why would they be interested in that? It's mainly gay men, but they're a small percentage of the population. So the main supporters are women, feminists, women who don't want to be bigoted because they believe that they themselves were once disenfranchised. So they look out for other groups of people who are disenfranchised. Obviously, it started off with supporting the gay community, and now it's gone on to supporting the trans community.
Let me ask you a question. If your little daughter, who's 6 years old, go in the bathroom, a public bathroom at Walmart, and one of them dudes with a dress on and some lipstick try to go in the bathroom after her,
he getting Jazzy Jeffed out the door.
I'm going to tell him, hold on. I'm going to tell him, my daughter in there, you got to wait. Yeah. You got to wait. I don't care about what comes after that. You ain't finna be in there with my daughter, because if anything happened to my daughter with a man in the woman's bathroom, I got to go on here and get that bail money.
Well, that's
together.
why they made those family bathrooms, thank goodness, because they made those right after my kid was already older, because I used to have to go in the bathroom.
And these are the things we have to consider. Because we've accepted that a man can now be a woman if they identify as a woman, we now have to accept that biological males are going to go into women's bathrooms, where our daughters are. We now have to accept that. And this is the thing. It's all very well saying that we need to be inclusive and, somebody identifies as a woman, they shouldn't be excluded from the woman's bathroom because they identify as a woman. Some people would even go as far to say they are a woman. It's all very well saying that, but what people are not acknowledging is that it creates loopholes. It opens doors to essentially just men being in the bathroom. And once you allow that, women are going to be in more vulnerable situations, and we have already seen that assaults have taken place. And how far do we take it? Like I always keep reminding you, they've allowed men who have been convicted of R to go into women's prisons, to stay in women's prisons. So the victims of that man, the people who were assaulted by him, get to hear that he's allowed into a woman's prison. How do you think that makes the victims, the women who were victimized by this person, feel? This is what people are not getting, are not understanding. All the practicalities of accepting this, the loopholes. And then now we've seen what's happened to women's sports as well. It's not practical because biology matters.
Yeah. Like, look, now this is what's crazy. I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but I can't switch it up. We talking about the sister, Jess Hilarious. Mm-hmm. Jess Hilarious was going in on the insane man. Mm-hmm. Because society is fucked up. Even though Jess Hilarious' points were, in my opinion, on point. Mm-hmm.
That's dope.
Our sister is still lost because she busts down with her child for publicity. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. You see how out of whack we are in society? Right. Like, you be like, yeah, that's good, but it's like a person who will be like, I don't eat meat, but I lick out the back of somebody. I don't understand what you're talking about. Yeah. What is wrong with you? You think that because I ate this pork chop, you better than me, right. And you put your tongue in the asshole. Right. Society out of whack.
Or just that people are trying to impose what they believe and feel in their heart of hearts is right. That's how it's going. In other words, like that's what causes fights. And
a lawless society, or a society whose laws are created by the corporation, it's gonna be chaos. It
already is.
It's bound for destruction.
But
yeah.
Shit, women.
It's gonna impede.
Here's the thing that sucks about this: women are the Trojan horse. They are the back door that this community used to be able to do this. Because black women, white women, all turned against the men and their races to protect you know, these activities.
Well, they believed in the beginning that, okay, well, everybody has the right to kind of do and want to be what they want to be. But when it just went too far when they're trying to say, no, in other words, they were talking bad about natural born women. Right. That's what happened.
When you want to infiltrate,
like,
when you want to infiltrate the enemy, the best way is to go through the weakest link, and not saying, you know, women weak like that, but they go through the women and the children.
But Marcus, what you saying, listen, brother. You said it right. It's just you tried to say it the politically correct way.
So yeah, they're basically saying that women, you know, have allowed this. And I've seen people leave comments on my videos saying, you know, you got what you wanted. Women have caused this. Women have allowed this. This biological man is allowed to tell women that they're not the gatekeepers of womanhood. They're not the gatekeepers of periods. Somebody who's never had a period before and never will have a period. And I don't even know why they want a period so bad, because, you know, a lot of women would be happy to be able to have children and do all of that without having to go through having a period every month. But for some reason, Jess isn't allowed to speak, but this trans individual is allowed to go around talking down to women and telling them what they can and can't do, what they can and can't say, what they can and cannot feel.
Laverne, I knew she was going to correct me and say,
is Laverne a man's name?
Well, who is
Laverne is a man's name. That ain't no man's name.
Laverne's an old women's name.
Laverne is a man's name.
No, shut your silly ass up.
You wrong for that, bitch.
Shut up.
Is this supposed to be shade? Because this is the most popular Laverne that I know. And we know Jess will try the girls.
Because it seems like y'all only have so much to say when it comes to competition. It really seems like y'all only have so much to say when it comes to tearing somebody else down. Girl, don't nobody want to be you. Girl, don't nobody want to be you. Let's be clear, Miss Thing. A lot of you don't want to be you. Y'all are just mad that people are really out here moving and happy, and y'all are really mad that people are being mistaken for you and getting more respect than you do. That has nothing to do with us. That is not a reason why you should be disrespecting us and trying to make it a big thing. Girl, don't nobody want no period. Don't nobody want no motherfucking kids, because a lot of you don't want no kids. A lot of y'all only having these motherfucking kids to keep a man around. A lot of y'all only having motherfucking kids because you trying to make your mom and daddy happy. A lot of y'all are married or not even married, but the ones that are getting married are motherfucking married to a man that don't respect you, probably beat you, don't give you the compliment, don't treat you like the real woman that you are. So why are you really mad at us? You're not really mad at trans women for considering ourselves women. You're mad because you don't really get respected as the woman that you really were born to be real in. Girl, stop taking all your frustrations and your disrespect down on other people. That has nothing to do with us. Anybody trying to take your place?
So, you know, just be careful who you decide you want to be an ally to, because they may turn around and tread all over you, tread all over your sports, tread all over your bathrooms. And the very thing that you were fighting against has been repackaged, put on a dress and some lipstick and a wig. And now they think they can explain to you what womanhood is. They believe they can tell you that you're going to be called a chest feeder. You're going to be called, what's it, a bonus hole or whatever. You're going to be called a person with a uterus. You're going to be called cisgender. And if you don't like that term, you're a bigot. And, you know, you may as well be a racist. But they are perfectly happy to be called a woman because they are women. So that's the only label they need. But you're cisgender, chest feeding, person with a uterus. The fact is, we don't have to gatekeep periods. We don't. Biology gatekeeps periods. Biology decides who has periods, who can have babies. And that's women. Men can do certain things that women cannot do, and vice versa. That's dictated by biology, and there's nothing we can do about it. And womanhood cannot be taken away. It's impossible. That's not going to happen. They didn't claim to not have made any money from Tampax, but Tampax was perfectly happy for a biological male to advertise their product, to partner with a biological male who will never have a period, has no idea what endometriosis feels like, has no idea what polycystic ovaries feels like, women dealing with those conditions every month, excruciating pain, and there's nothing the doctors can do. They just tell you to go on the pill or whatever. You know, they're never going to experience that. But yet, we're not the gatekeepers of periods. Well, biology is. And if we're not the gatekeepers, have a period. Have a period then, so you can be the true woman that you are.
The audacity. If we're not gatekeepers, bleed. Bleed. Breed and bleed. You cannot have a baby through your intestinal tract.
You put 10 men and 10 trans men on an island for 100 years, and you come back to 20 dead bodies. Now you put 10 biological women and 10 biological men on an island, and you come back with a community. We didn't ask for periods. We didn't ask to be the gatekeepers, but we are. We didn't ask to have to be protected or defend ourselves as women, but clearly it's coming with the territory. Stop.
While everyone is in an uproar about who can bleed and who can't, men have become so obsessed with women that they want to turn into one. And I find it quite flattering that womanhood seems so great to you guys. Y'all know me, you may not like what I gotta say, but I'm gonna say it anyways. In recent conversation, there's been a lot of uproar between trans women and real women. In my opinion, I think the most misogynistic thing that a man can do is reject his biology as a man and go into women-dominated spaces telling other women how he's a better woman than them because it's based off of his feelings of how he perceives a woman to be, while walking in society emulating what he believes a woman looks like by replicating other women. When we're discussing womanhood, I cannot go to another woman and ask her what it feels like to be a woman, because being a woman is not a feeling. However, being a woman, I absolutely am subjected to my reproductive organs that identify me as a woman. And saying that doesn't mean that I'm less than a woman. It just means that that is the beginning of my woman origin and my woman experience. And for the women who can't have a baby, we still recognize those women as women because they do have the reproductive organs to do so. However, we also understand that something is medically wrong with them. I will give credence to the fact that women are not the only people who have a period if we're identifying them that way, because non-binary people or trans men actually can also have a period, but at the basis of it, we call those biological women.
Yeah, speaking of that, that's another reason why our language has had to change in recent years. We now have to say men can have babies. We now have to say men can have periods. Obviously, that doesn't apply to trans women, biological males, but women who want to be men, trans men. And again, that's something that I do not agree with. I don't think we should be saying that. It's confusing, you know, to very young children growing up hearing this sort of rhetoric, and it's just disingenuous. If you are a trans man and you decide that you still want to go ahead and have children, you're just confirming that you are female. That's it. And that's not the reality of that doesn't change. But you know, you can say non-binary or whatever, trans men have periods, as long as the word trans is in there. You know, I don't even agree with that, but whatever. As far as I'm concerned, if you're having babies, giving birth, you're a woman. You're just showing that you're a woman. And I can't for the life of me understand, you know, why somebody who claims that they are a man would still want to go through all of the experiences of being a woman. I mean, trans women want to be women, and women who claim that they want to be men still want to experience everything that pertains to womanhood. So clearly, womanhood is so great that trans men can't let go of it, and trans women, biological males, want to be women so badly, even to the point where they want periods.
However, when you're talking about trans women, we understand that that is something that biologically impossible you cannot do. The power struggle here that comes into play is when there is a very small minority of people imposing onto a larger group of people that are telling them what they would like to be called, how they would like to be treated, how they would like to be pronounced, and how they would like to be identified. But then you're imposing terminology onto them that they have yet to accept. And since everyone has such an issue with understanding just hilarious, let me go ahead and put my cape on, because I think I could break it down for you a little bit more. It's very disingenuous for you to overshadow that woman's feelings in regards to her womanhood when she actually has given birth to a baby, which biologically that does make her a woman. However, you decided to discuss her looks and says that she looks like a trans person, while you're also attempting to advocate for trans people. It's giving inherent transphobia. Also, to resurface the interview where she's relaying her experience of a man DMing her thinking that she was a trans woman to have sex with her probably offended her because she's an actual woman, and it should be more of a slight to trans people considering the fact that that person has a fetish and just wanted to sexualize you and use you as an inanimate object. As a black woman, we have to be extremely mindful of how we attach ourselves to other intersectional groups when it comes to their issues, because we're always the first to remind people nobody respects us and nobody protects us, but we're the first to jump into the line of fire when other people need a defense. So here's a few things to remember when you're talking allyship. They're always present when it's time to give the tea or bash heterosexual men and amplify any bad experience that we've had in regards to our relationship issues. But anytime it's time to help these children and provide for them or be a better role model or even your protection, they are nowhere to be found. Not saying that there is an agenda, but I will say for a very small group of people who seem to not have any effect on anybody, when their issues come up in conversation, they're making a huge ruckus, and their representation comes at the basis of overshadowing other marginalized people.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Their rights overshadows everybody else's, apparently. Their needs come before the needs of others, come before the needs of biological women. And I find it interesting how a uterus doesn't make you a woman, a period doesn't make you a woman. But wearing a wig, putting on makeup and lashes, and getting a boob job suddenly makes you a woman.
Y'all spend more time on your hair and makeup we don't even do, because y'all can't just roll out of bed. Because if you roll out of bed, you wouldn't look like a woman. We roll out of bed, we look like women. If we ain't ugly.
And let's just clear this up once and for all. Can't even have to say this. Women do not compete with trans women. Straight men, heterosexual men, do not want trans women. If they do, they're not heterosexual. So therefore, women do not have to compete with trans women. That is not a thing. Only in your minds. Insecurity is definitely a thing that women experience, but mainly when they compare themselves to other women. They're definitely not comparing themselves to trans women. I've never heard of that. I don't like to speak for everybody, but as a woman, I think it's pretty safe to say that women do not compare themselves to trans women and feel insecure and want to compete with them in that regard. No. And again, we're not competing with trans women for men. We're just not for straight men. And anything else, you know, that's a whole different story. But when it comes to women attracting straight men, they're competing with other women, not trans women. So let's just get back to reality in regards to that. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.